there's a space that is created when you're meditating. All of a sudden, you're an observer. You're this observer and you're observing everything happening within you. Now, it no longer sweeps you away. You can now witness it and say, okay, this is just a feeling. This is just a thought. This is just an experience that and it's temporary. And really, I am the blue sky. And this is just a cloud. It's just a storm.
Our guest today is an artist, life strategist, TEDx speaker, and a truth seeker who partners up with leaders to help them level up and step into their greatness. As a transformation expert and joy enthusiast, her mission is to inspire people to live purposefully, give generously, and thrive. Welcome to the show, Monica Reyes.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Monica, for being here. I know we've been planning on getting you on the show for some time. You've been patient with me, and we're finally here. We're in the moment. I definitely want to spend the next 50 minutes in the moment with you. There's so many people that can be helped from your story, and that's why I said I really want to get you on the show, and I appreciate you being here to do that.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. So, guys, you can tune into Monica. It's monicaereyes.com. Reyes is spelled Reyes. Don't even worry about spelling it. Again, monicaereyes.com, because I made it clickable for you in the show notes along with her social media. So don't worry about spelling that out. It's all there for you. And we're going to dive right into Monica's story. As I mentioned, knowing her, we've had the opportunity to meet kind of off camera a couple times. Guys, I feel she is the perfect guest for Mic'd Up. Really, our missions are in alignment. Who we serve are completely aligned, right? And so I'm just excited to dive into today's show. And I know some of the things that you've talked about with me previously was meditating, and I really want to start there. I feel like we can start from our core real quick to launch the show into where I anticipate it going. So meditating and learning ancient practices. So it's the world of energetics. I want to pick your brain on this in a second. So you started there, and then 5 years later, you leave it's a multi-million-dollar progressive all-woman law firm, which I'd love you to share more about. And you served them for years as an attorney, which is interesting too. Can you share the practices with the world? So share your story. How did you start off with the meditating and the ancient practices into this multi-million-dollar progressive all-woman law firm into what you're doing today?
Okay. Whew.
It's a lot to unpack, but that's where I want to start.
But it's so juicy because it really was, and it feels like lifetimes ago, to be honest. What really was the catalyst for me was being a mother. Went to law school, ended up after working for different, law firms, decided I want to start my own law firm. And I really, I picked up basically my bankruptcy manager at the time. I'm like, we can do this. Let's serve the people. Because at the time we were actually serving the banks. And we're like, we don't want to do this anymore. We're going to serve the people. We're going to, and so we did. We ended up doing it. And along the way, really right when we started to take off, I found that I was pregnant. And that really changed everything for me. Because in that moment, I realized that everything that I did, every breath that I took, and I like to learn, I like to read, and what I was learning was just the effect of the mother, on the baby inside the womb. And, as you're building a law firm specifically, and as we're growing quite fast in this moment, I started to feel very stressed. And by necessity, I found meditation. And meditation had served me well, shortly before that, where I was looking for basically like a miracle in my life at the time. And I saw meditation, and then I took a break, and then I really started again. And that was like, I meditated, I would say, like every day when I was pregnant,
Would you explain it almost like that's your mental reset?
It is like my mental reset. And really I meditate a little differently now, but at the time, that's exactly what it was. It was a reset. It was a way to experience emptiness, experience myself as not as the thought, not as the emotion, not as the chaos and the stress, but to be able to create this space, this what is called basically a witness. To be able to there's a space that is created when you're meditating. All of a sudden, you're an observer. You're this observer, and you're observing everything happening within you. And when you can create that relationship, I mean, everything changes really, because now it no longer sweeps you away. You can now witness it and say, okay, this is just a feeling. This is just a thought. This is just an experience that and it's temporary. And really, I am the blue sky. And this is just a cloud. It's just a storm. And to be able to experience it in that way is really powerful, because now it does not overcome you. And you can, you know, when you're in the blue sky, when you're experiencing life from that place, you've got more control over your emotions, you've got more access to emotional intelligence, you have access to creative solutions. There was a moment, there were a lot of times in my law firm when we were taking off, and we grew very quickly in, like, I would say, like 6 to 8 month span. And everybody was like, and usually the pregnant, like, stereotypically the
Yeah.
pregnant woman is the one that's,
More
crazy, right?
emotional.
Or at least
More
the more
emotional for
emotional.
sure. Yeah.
Exactly. Like,
Hormones coming
it
out.
is,
Yeah.
it is a very emotional, um, you know, journey, because your hormones, and there is a lot you're dealing with, this transition from being just a woman to now a woman as a mother. And the meditation had me, I was, for sure, I felt like the calmest woman in the room, which for me was like, wow, this is really powerful. Something about this. Not only did it change me, what I started to notice was that the people around me started to change. And I feel like that was really where I was awestruck with that. Like, okay, how is it possible that I'm the one doing this meditation? I'm the one now, starting to think about myself, and I'm doing all this transformational work. But yet there are people around me that aren't doing it. Somehow I'm noticing that they're starting to shift and they're starting to change. And that's where I started to learn the relationship of energy and the
Hmm.
whole, like, realm and study of energetics. And I've really gotten deeper into it as the years went by. But it was very powerful for me, and ultimately shifted me and
Are you
started to
dipping
turn me
into my
into wanting
notes?
to
Are
do
you
that.
peeking? Are you peeking at my notes,
I
Monica?
mean,
Because I literally wanted to get there. I mean, our conversation again last time, we didn't record because we were like, this is so good. Let's get this on the show. Is that you mentioned to me everything is energy. And I've heard that before. And I've studied a little bit of quantum physics, and I'm not claiming to be even close to an expert. And I really would love your explanation how everything is energy and how you kind of were feeling it at that moment.
so I knew, logically, mentally, that everything was energy. I don't think that I'd actually really embodied the experience of it until it started to actually see that people were starting to change and shift. And I've seen this. I mean, I am a devotional, like, my spiritual practice. I'm very devotional. Like, I do a lot of what you can call alchemy, where, you know, you I basically turned the past into gold. I rewrite the stories of my own past. I heal myself. I do a lot of ancestry work. And now I see that, I mean, it's a moment to moment navigation. Something will happen in my reality, and I already know what to do because this is what I do. And so I'll go in and take and feel inside, okay, what is coming up for me now? Because I know the principles. I know that whatever's coming up in my reality is really part of my journey. It's really for me. It's really, as the observer, it's been proven in quantum physics that we literally observe things into creation, that reality is malleable. And I've seen it. I've seen it with my own eyes, where something will show up. I will shift the way I feel about it, which now changes the way that I perceive it, which changes then my observation of it. And then it shifts. I've done it
Hmm.
over and over again. I've experienced physical healing. I've seen miracles. I mean, I've personally witnessed this to the point that I have such conviction about it. Yes, and so that's it. That's the sacred relationship of us being the observer, and it's not something that you can logically change. It's really who you are. It's how you feel about it. It's how you think and you feel. It's the embodiment of it. And you can use your reality. You can use what is showing up for you. People, how are they showing up? Experiences, situations, circumstances. You can utilize it as, knowing that relationship. Okay, so this is showing up for me, and why is it showing up for me? What is in it for me? What is there for me to experience? What is there? How is that a mirror for me? And if you know the relationship and the principles, you can shift your reality.
Right.
Because, if you if you believe that you can manifest a car or you can, law of attraction secret, if you believe that, it doesn't just work on things, it works on everything. You're manifesting everything 24/7. And I often hear, well, I don't know how to do what you do. You're already doing it. Sometimes you may be doing it unconsciously. And so that's really what I've been, our work is to, conscious evolution. It's an ability to be able to deliberately create. Imagine if you could deliberately create. We're already doing it. We do it with things and personal things. But imagine if you were able to do it with relationships. If you were able to do it with what's going on in the global world. I mean, that's,
Mm.
imagine. Yeah, and if you gather enough people that believe, I mean, there are studies I've read, I've seen studies, I've seen, where you gather people and we all have the same intention. We all believe that it is possible. You can change bigger things that you could ever imagine.
Yeah. It's almost like not a sixth sense necessarily, because it's like energy. It's kind of like all of our senses coming. It's almost like a super sense, if you will, in the way I'm describing it is. But it's something that a lot of people are out of tune with, I feel like. And I've been an entrepreneur. I'm coming around on my 5th year, which is super exciting, and I'm still here to talk about it. So I'm proud of that. But it's been a roller coaster, and that's a whole nother story. But a lot of what I love about entrepreneurship is all the great people that I've been able to meet, and the books I've read, and the podcasts I've listened to, and the interviews I've done on Mic'd Up. And this idea of the law of attraction, and Bob Proctor, he was kind of the one who I first heard say it. I studied him for a while. It's like this gift, right, that we have. We can tap into it. It's there for everybody. Everyone has access to it, and it's free, which is crazy. But so many people choose not to use it. And I know a lot of our audience are young entrepreneurs and people who are striving for greatness and looking for those beautiful gifts that are there to be had if we manifest them. And I say genuinely, because it's not just like you can say, I want a red Ferrari, I want a red Ferrari pops out of the back, but it's actually manifesting it. And there's the actions and the mindset that goes into it. So thank you for kind of explaining it way better than I could explain it. So that was really awesome for you to do there. And I'd like to kind of take it into my next question. We're really driving together here. We're in the same car, same vehicle. We're going the same way together, which I love. And you've probably heard me say this before, and you see it in my emails. And anyone who's tuned into the episode has heard me say it. It's on my hat. The BGBG is be great and be grateful. And I feel like a big part of being able to manifest is to be in a state of gratitude. I know you're someone who's extremely grateful, wake up and end the days in gratitude, right? But you also, as I teased in the beginning of the episode, Monica, you do help people step into their greatness. So let's talk about the greatness side of this for a moment. And I feel like this idea gets met with some odd stares sometimes when somebody says, I want to be great. It's like they're almost afraid to admit that they want to be great. There's this arrogance that's not really intended to be with that word. So I'm getting to a point, I'm getting to a question. My question is, can you share the mindset of greatness with us and striving for it, and what it actually, the genuine term of greatness means to you?
Wow, such a beautiful question. Um, when I think about what is the mindset, what does it mean to be great? For me, I feel like it's more than just mindset. I feel like it's knowing, and because we are great. And and there is this like beautiful famous quote by this woman, Marianne Williamson, where she says, it isn't our darkness that we're most afraid of, it's actually our light. And I truly do believe that. Like I feel like most of us are afraid of what our potential is, of what is possible, because what would that mean? And for me, what I feel like when I think about greatness, it's really just, it's remembering and knowing like who you are, knowing that you are this powerful being beyond measure. You're this miracle. We all are. I mean, and it is bringing it back to sort of the topic, of what we just kind of left of, the powers that we have. We are powerful. We are so powerful that we can change our reality, so powerful that we can move mountains. And really, it's just we've forgotten. We all have, it's an innate ability. We've just forgotten. And if you just tap into your breath and you can see that something is breathing you in this moment, that there is this intelligence that you don't have to like program it or tell your body what to do. Thank goodness, because we probably forget, we probably mess it up. But there's something that does it for you. And that intelligence is really what life is, and it's who we are. And really, it's really just attuning ourselves, our frequency to it, and remembering that we are great. And if there's anything that shows up that sort of, you know, uh, for some when we've forgotten, it's that's the opportunity to heal. That's the opportunity to be like, okay, so when my mother told me that I wasn't great, or when my father didn't see me, like that's an opportunity. That's what and to go back and rewrite those stories, and to come back and remember, yes, actually, I am great. Everything that I've been told was just those are building blocks. They're building blocks so that I can remember and feel the greatness that I am. Because we really are just potential. Anything is possible. If we really
Yeah.
knew who we are, we would be great beyond the greatness we could even imagine with our limited minds.
Yeah. Something I just talked about in one of my mastermind groups today, which is with a group of men that are all Christian men and also business owners, and just a great group of guys. We were talking about our why, and we were talking about our serving and purpose, and I think that ties to greatness, right? Whether you believe in God or the universe or whatever it is that you feel has us here, and that we'd be manifesting from within, you have to ask yourself, at the end of my life, and we don't know when our day is going to come. Hopefully, we get to live a long, prosperous life. And when we look back on it, if there was two versions of us, the actual version that ends up there, and our highest potential version, our greatness, right? How close are these two people? Do they look at each other and recognize each other, or is one like completely distraught, looks nothing like to our potential? You know what I'm saying? And I think that when you think about it that way, it really kind of, to me, inspires me to be like, you know what? I want to look at myself and be like, is that a split? Is that the mirror image of myself? Right. Because all these things are there for us to have. And I work with a one-on-one coach as well. And he always helps me unlock these little things. And something that you said early in this episode that I wanted to get back to, I took a mental note of it, is when you meditated in that moment, you said you realized you were the sky and not the clouds, and the clouds kind of represented adversity. I think so many times we feel like we're the clouds, we're the mess, we're the mix up, we're part of the adversity, but we're not. The adversity happens, and then we can choose to still be remaining there after it's gone. And I think when you reflect in gratitude and also strive for your greatness, you realize that all these things are going to come and happen, and good and bad and ugly can happen. But when we flip it to like how this happens for us, then we can remain being the sky, because things come and go. The clouds will come and go. But when you meditate on the fact that I'm the sky, and not in a cocky way, I'm being great, but I'm being the best version of my intended self. And what I love about you and why I wanted you on the show is that it's to serve others. Greatness is to inspire others to be great. You're not just looking to be in a closet and be great somewhere all by yourself on an island. You want to help others. Like, what I love about your story is when you finally saw and felt the power of meditation, you didn't really realize the power of it when it was only you feeling it. It was when the other people in your office were like vibing with you, and you're like, this is big, this is huge. And that's when it really lit the light bulb went off, because you felt other people experiencing it. So I really love that. We're going to get to a 2-minute quick break right here. We'll be right back with Monica Reyes. Do not go anywhere. Podcasting is a great way to engage with your audience and stay consistently relevant. The only problem is you don't have the time or desire to produce your own show. You simply want it done for you. And that's where Social Chameleon comes in. All you need to do is press record and upload the files. We'll handle the rest. From planning, production, post-production, distribution, and digital marketing, we have you covered. We realize that times are tough and funds are tight. And Social Chameleon believes in building supportive business relationships. By clicking on the link in this promo, we'll provide you 7 free podcasting tips to get started, as well as a free 30-minute online consultation. This is the perfect opportunity for entrepreneurs, keynote speakers, industry experts, influencers, and anybody who has a personal brand. With Social Chameleon, we help you build a brand that is out of this world. We're ready and waiting, so what are you waiting for? Click on the link to get started today. Hey guys, it's Mike. I'd like to give a proper shout out to Navigator Bookkeeping. Look, for a long time, I ran my business without really understanding the full financial picture. I used my gut and my bank account balance to make decisions, which led to some poor choices and constant stress over my business's finances. I knew something needed to change. At the beginning of 2021, I made a decision that helped pave a more clear path for my business. I started working with Navigator Bookkeeping. Since then, my bookkeeping has been handled for me. I now understand the full financial story of my business, making important financial decisions much easier now, and it helps me plan for where my business is going. I highly recommend giving Navigator Bookkeeping an opportunity to help your business. Check them out at navigatingyourbooks.com. Again, that's navigatingyourbooks.com. It's time to know the full financial story of your business. All right, we're back in action with Monica Reyes. Remember, you guys can connect with her on social media and her website. I made the links clickable in the show notes, so it's easy to do that. We were just diving into some deep conversation before the break, and I want to pick it right up where we left off, and also talk about, obviously, the reason that you're so versed in all of this and that you understand is that you're a student of the game. You live what you preach. You actually do the stuff that you tell others to do. So you're a great example of this, of the mindset that you talk about and that you educate and coach on. You've done it, and you now have clients who've gone through that. So can you talk about your programs? I know they're designed for leaders and organizations, helping them with the emotional, self-awareness, resilience, compassion. Like, can you elaborate more on the key ingredients to high performance?
Sure. I basically serve lots of different demographics. Work with individuals. I work with organizations. I work with, I'll sometimes get hired by an organization to do or just a men's group or a women's group, or I've come in and done a lot of inspirational talks and retreats. I mean, I get asked to do a lot of different things depending on uh, the need of whoever it is that's needing it. But typically it is around, it's basically around this sort of idea of leadership, because a lot of times we think that, the CEO is the only leader, but we're actually always leading. We're leading, each other constantly. We're leading whether your parents or, I mean, you're leading your parents. I lead my parents. I'm as the matriarch of my family. I'm leading my family. So you can be leading the cashier at Publix with love. I mean, really, you're always leading, and it's and you're also leading yourself. And a lot of what I do is also around self leadership and how you're leading yourself. So, teaching
So
people
important. Yeah.
how to, the basic fundamental tools of how to lead yourself, and, how to experience life, because life, you're going to be given these twists and turns in your personal life. And even if you stay on the couch all day, like, listen, what's happening, in the global scheme of things, like life will give you twists and turns. And it really is, how do we be with all of it? And that's really what it's about. And
Mhm.
so giving people, these leaders, to experience these so that they can handle them and navigate what is happening in their world, in their personal world, and their professional world, and their company, from this place of the leader that they really want to and desire to be. And it really starts with these fundamentals of emotional intelligence, mindfulness, of having your own practice, of having, like you said, why are you doing this in the first place? To really, and really, it's a lot of self-awareness, so that you can lead from this place of power, and not from a distorted place of power, but from compassion, from, handling the fires in your company, from a place of grace, and assertiveness, boundaries, making sure that, communication. I mean, there's so much to it, but in essence, it's, how do I navigate myself? How do I lead myself? And how do I lead the people around me? And there are, different elements around that, and different tools that you can use. I mean, there's so much
It's
exercises,
so
and
refreshing to hear someone of your caliber, and I know you're humble, so I'm going to be the one who says it. But like, you're a high performer. You're somebody who's achieved greatness, and you continue to strive for it. And I love to hear that you're reflecting and saying, look, I'm always being the leader of myself and getting back to that and thinking about it every day. Cause I think, and I hate this isn't supposed to sound negative. It's just speaking to the reality that a lot of times leaders get into a role and it's like their way or the highway, and they just kind of stick with it and roll with it because it's worked for time. And they kind of built up either reputation or respect. But it's like, okay, well, whether it's I use sports analogies a lot, but it's like the 20-year head coach. Are they still every day kind of going reflecting back on how they can be the best leader of their team, or are they saying, well, I won a Super Bowl 12 years ago, so you can't question me? It's like, and I know I'm going to say the greatest of the great are the ones that are constantly learning, growing, shifting, adapting, and not stuck in their own ways and in their own head. Which is exactly what you're talking about. And I think it's beautiful for those that are listening in who have businesses, and the business, whether you're a solopreneur or an entrepreneur with 1,000 employees, you still have to be, taking care of number one of one, to be able to lead everybody. And that's like, it hits home with me because I'm leading a very small team right now, but on the days when I feel like I'm way out of concert with myself, are days when I'll meet with a team member and I'm just like, they can tell I'm frazzled because something just happened. In the days when I'm really collected and really on point with myself, I'll have a meeting and I'll just go really well. And it's like, because there's a confidence when you are in tune with yourself. So spend time with yourself. Too many people run from it. The pandemic freaked everybody out. You actually had to quarantine and be alone. It was a weird feeling. And then it's like, oh, I can grow by myself. Interesting, right?
Right. You're right. So we looked at technology, we looked to outsource it, we looked at, and really, God, I mean, I've really fallen in love with myself through this process. And there were so many times that I couldn't, couldn't stand a part of myself or something. And so the energy
Mhm.
works. You can't stand a part of yourself. You're going to manifest that and it'll come back into a person through an, circumstance, situation. So life is constantly bringing you in here anyway, because this is
Mm,
where the power is. If you're the movie
mhm.
projector, creating a movie as observing your reality into creation, it always starts with you. And the more comfortable that you can be with yourself and just face it. Sometimes you just have to face it. You just have to face the shame, face the thing that you did, it's ugly or the feeling or whatever it is. That's it. That's all it takes. An awareness. And then and it's gone.
Yeah, it's like face the beast. Otherwise, it lurks around the corner all the time. Whether it's something that you need to correct about yourself, or it could be a financial issue. It could be health. You're just putting. I know there's something I have to do. Like I had a medical condition earlier in the year, and for some reason, like insurance didn't cover something, and had no idea. So 6 months later, I got this thing like you can argue it or whatever, and the due date on it's like July 5th, and I've had it sitting on my table for like 45 days. And I just keep saying, "Oh, I'll call that tomorrow. I'll call that tomorrow." It's lurking. Just freaking pick. All I have to do is pick up the phone, make a phone call, and say, "Hey, I'm not. Can you explain why this wasn't covered?" And so I either need to pay it or insurance is going to pay it as they said they would. It could be anything. It could be a family member who you said you're going to call them to help them out with something, and then you just, not intentionally put them off. Like, I don't want to talk to them, but you just let life get in the way. All you got to do is take 5 minutes, pick up the phone or whatever it might be to get that taken care of. And then you have that you can go back to being the sky again.
Totally. You know what helps me do that, whether it's a conversation, like a hard conversation I have to have, or, is I know why it's happening. It's so, and if
Mm,
you just know why it's happening, it no longer scares you. Where it's like, okay, like, because this whole journey is about evolution. We're always evolving, right? And you think about it from like like really where we came from and what this life really is. I mean, we've made it mean something completely different. We've, added the economy and our systems and all that. We've made that mean it, but really, it really is just evolution. And if you just know that those things are just growing you, and you know that you already know you want to get to greatness. And in order to get to greatness, you've got to grow. You just see them as that. They're just steps to grow. So it's really allowed me, okay. So there's that conversation. All right, universe. I'm accepting the challenge. I'm gonna have it and I'm gonna make sure that I'm in the right state to do, because I know that somehow this is evolving me into the greatness that I see and the greatness that I know that I, want to be before I die. Like everything that you just talked about, that's all of these are. It's really just seeing them, and there may be a little girl, little boy inside that's afraid. And so you just calm that part of you down.
Hmm.
Hey, see you. All right.
Yeah. It's interesting. I just had this vision when you were talking about that, like David versus Goliath, or however you want to identify that as, like, wrestling the bear. Like a lot of people say, like this big thing that's scary, dinosaur gets used, whatever the term is, or the thing is that's scary that you have to face one on one. But at the end of the day, if you keep battling that, and whether you're winning or losing, you're actually out there battling it. At the end, as a survivor, you're going to be so much stronger because you actually were fighting with it, opposed to someone who just hides all the time and you never get any stronger because you don't face any of it. So it's not easy to face it. I'm not trying to stand up here and say, "Oh, just do it," but there's resources out there. There's so many people like Monica, or Monica directly. She wants you to reach out with her. That's why I gave you all her social, so you can check out what she's doing, and be a resource to you. So when you come out and say, "I'm ready to fight," you're not really fighting alone ever, because you have the internet, you have books, you have podcasts, you have friends, family, mastermind groups. Get around other people that truly do want to help you out. I'd say anyone who's listening right now, you don't realize how many people love and care about you. You might think like there's 5 people that come to mind, but there's way more than that. I know that there's people out there that I maybe met once or twice that they would love to see me successful, but I don't even, it's not someone I'm thinking about. So I think reminding everybody, you're not fighting the battle alone. Yeah, so good. I have a question for you. Speaking about fighting the battle, I want to know what inspires you, Monica. So, what keeps you inspired and striving for excellence every day?
Wow. My children.
Yeah,
My children.
give
Yeah.
them some love right now. I know you became a mom in 2017 to a beautiful little
Yeah.
boy, and he had eczema, if I remember correctly, and it was miraculously healed. So, tell that story.
Yeah. I mean, it's doing miraculously better. I oh gosh. So, anybody that's experiencing eczema, or, anybody that has a child that has eczema, you know what I'm talking about. When, the first doctor I ever brought him to was his pediatrician, and the first thing he said was like, "This is incurable. So we're just going to," and he immediately prescribed him steroids and dealt with it in this way that really was upsetting. And so I pulled him out of that doctor. I was like, "This isn't for me." And then went on this search for, I mean, God, I mean, I must have met with like 7 to 10 different doctors all over the world. I mean, everywhere, England, Canada, look, naturopath, homeopathic, functional medicine. I've tried everything because I just believe, and it's just, there's no way. Everything is energy. There's no way that this is incurable. I know that somehow it's linked to an emotion, because that's what I know. And I believe, and I've seen the power of that. Um, so once I started to dig into it from this place of, like, if it doesn't work in the physical realm, I immediately go into myself, and I go into the energetic realm, because, that's where it starts. It's all frequency. So my mentor helped me along with this, and I just started to take a look and see. One of the things that she said, her name is Dr. Nani Land Diamond, by the way. And one of the things that she said that was so powerful to me was that children often, we take a look and we think it's like when there's a problem, and they're sick or whatever, we try to, we isolate the problem. We're like, oh, this child is sick. But the child is actually a symptom of the greater system. So I started to take a look at it as an ecosystem, as us, my husband, my daughter, my son, and myself, as this ecosystem of our greater family. And then, the greater ecosystem of my mother, my brother, my father, all of that, and the ancestry. And when I started to take a look at it from that place, I uncovered so much of like, I couldn't believe what was uncovered, of why I participated and co-created this to keep him sick. There was a benefit, for me, of like, of staying in the suffering, staying in the hard. Life has to be hard. I have to self-sacrifice as a mother. All these things that I learned from my mother sacrificing basically her life for us. I mean, there was so much that got taken. And as I started to dig into the energetics and the emotional, like, health of my son and everything, I really uncovered just all the healing that needed to be done. And what's interesting, at that moment, at the time, I really was like just trying to, like, I was searching for help, and, by doctors, that I was outsourcing my power. I was like, help me, you tell me what to do. You tell me what to do. And really what was wanting to happen was, for me, it was calling me forward to really open up the mother within me, the mama bear within me, the powerful mother I am. And it was such a powerful, beautiful journey. It healed the relationship between my husband and my son, which was like, you know, the, if you look through the line of my husband's, both of the generation above me and my husband's, like the way the father showed up and the way that now my husband's showing up, it's so beautiful. And so it was such a gift, such a beautiful gift. And it was really hard. I mean, I suffered a lot. There was a few, I mean, there were moments that I almost felt suicidal. Real, real hard.
Wow. Yeah.
And wow, it was the greatest, it was the greatest thing that we needed for our family. You see our family now, it's unrecognizable, and that, like, so
Mhm.
beautiful and so healthy. And just the way that passion I have for my husband now, and the way that we are as a team Reyes Welsh, it's like really just beautiful. And all of it, it was all necessary.
So can you put a finger on what you think helped your son heal through all that, like
It
during that time? And
it was all of it. It was the once it cleared the energetics, and did my own alchemy, and worked through my family and my ancestry. You
Mhm.
started to see that in that moment, all of a sudden I had access to a doctor I didn't know. Like, the healers appeared. But the work had to be done first. The personal healing work had to be done. Then all of a sudden, we found this doctor that led us to this doctor. Then at the same time, we were working with this. So then it really, with the work of the energetic, with the physical realm, we had a homeopathic doctor along with a Western medical doctor,
Yeah.
and
It's like a
all of it
spider web
together.
of resources came together.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
And from that moment, I mean, from one day to the next, it was wild. I remember seeing, he was covered, his whole body was covered. And then, I mean, over a weekend, it all cleared up. And it was, the timing of it was so precise, because I just, like, had such a deep, like, screaming to a pillow towel kind of session of, like, rocked my world of, like, of feeling all the feelings that needed to be felt, like, and then all of a sudden it just so happened to work. It's just interesting. And it was that he was wearing a mask. He went to school the next day, and his teachers, when he took off his mask, they were like, what happened? Oh my gosh. Because it was such a difference.
Mhm. Wow.
So, I mean,
Yeah.
and
That's
we have
incredible,
to
man.
stay.
I got chills over here.
He keeps me, we have to stay on the nutritional plan, like, and so,
Yeah.
and which is, it keeps me on my nutritional plan. I eat the same one, gluten-free, dairy-free, because it causes
I'm
inflammation. As long
gluten-free,
as we
dairy-free
stay
too,
that,
yeah.
he's great. As long as he stays on that with no preservatives. So it really, for us now, it's like keeping us all clean.
It reminds us our body is a machine.
It is.
Sorry to
It's a
interject. I
vessel.
just wanted to say again,
Yes.
it's a vessel, and um, I'm not saying I'm perfect by any means, but when I went gluten free, dairy free, that was more just a medical thing I was having going on, and um, but I definitely, I don't feel so bogged down like I used to. Just now the thing I need to improve on is increase the level of exercise and sleep. I still work way too long into the wee hours of the night. So if I can start improving sleep personally, I know it's all going to come together. But that diet piece, you saw it with your son, you saw his healing through that. You've experienced it yourself. It's so important to make sure that what we're putting in, we're not, you wouldn't, gasoline right now is not, it's a touchy subject because of the cost of gas being what it is. But you wouldn't put just any junk into your car. I'm laughing thinking about like Back to the Future when they're throwing all the junk into the flux capacitor or whatever. Like you don't
Yeah.
do that for your car, so why do you do that to yourself? And I'm not trying to call anybody out right now, but just reflect on that. Like, are you having a treat here and there, or are you literally abusing yourself by putting stuff that's not processing correctly into your system? And you saw how it healed your son. So even if he didn't have eczema, but you were not feeding him the right things over time, he could have had other health concerns pop up over time.
And it really starts with how much you value and how sacred you make your body. I mean, because, if you don't, there's, like, I've really, going through his situation has really allowed me to see how important it is to take care of myself, and how and the importance, the sacredness of this. I mean, when I eat clean, I can literally feel, I can feel energy. I can feel things that are intangible and invisible. And
Hmm.
when I don't eat well, I get bloated, I get inflamed, like I'm not even
Yeah.
mentally
It's not
clear,
worth it.
you
It's
know,
like,
it's
if you ever have that
not.
moment of
There's a
slip up and you feel it,
cost.
you're like, oh God, this ain't worth it at
There's
all.
a
Yeah.
cost. There's a cost. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
And and we're feeling that in the moment, but think of the compounding cost too. And there's no guarantee. Look, someone could never smoke a cigarette in their day, work out, 5 days a week, eat clean, but they still might have a health issue later on in life. We don't know. But what we're talking about is just doing the best we can to control what's in our control. So it's just increasing the odds of, the healthy lifestyle, health, mental, fitness, how it all kind of interweaves together.
Sure.
And your son was emotional, and your son was a great way through his story to remind us of how important that is. So, I know we have a few more minutes together. I want to talk about your legacy. I don't know if you've thought about it in a minute or not. And those that are listening in are missing out on Monica's smile right now. She's smiling because I think she's ready to deliver us some gold here. So you're the author and protagonist in your own life story, right? You get to write the ending. God willing, you continue to live a long, prosperous life. You're looking back on it, you're reflecting on it, and you get to define your legacy. What would that be?
I think about this all the time because I have children. Um,
Yeah.
I think about that last breath, of like holding my children's hands and knowing that I gave all, that I listened, I took risks, that I lived full out. And right now, what is calling me forward is my artistry. So I just recently, just like last weekend, delivered this performance, my first one. It was an original piece that I wrote, a spoken word and song, and it was and a piece of activism. And it was so
Yeah.
powerful. And I just let it take over me. And I was so raw. And it was I cried on stage. People cried, the audience was so beautiful. And that is, just and it was a calling, it was like a weird calling because at first I denied it. I was like, this is weird, no, I'm a attorney, I'm a speaker, I'm not a singer, I'm not a this. And then when I just allowed myself to open up to what wants to be lived through me, that's where all the magic happened, And so that is how I'm living my life. Like, what life? What do you want for me today? Use me as vessel. Use me and allow me to I'm allowing life to dance, to dance, to play me like an instrument. And when I surrender and I allow myself to do it, not thinking that I know better, but instead, that's where magic happens. And so that for me is like my legacy is like that I said everything that was meant to be said, that I said everything that I wanted to say, that I did everything that I wanted to do, that I lived everything that I wanted to live. And I did it all. I got, and I'm doing this now. I mean, I just moved to this land, 5 acre plot of land with my kids. And I'm in the mud. I'm playing in the mud. I'm playing the rain. I'm living. I'm living, and it's so alive. It's so beautiful and so fun. And that is how I want to live. That is how I want to live.
Yeah, that's so good. You're doing it. I love asking that question more so now than ever before on the show. And I typically try to mix up questions on the show, but I like to come back to that one as kind of the bookend of it because when people open up about it, our guests, they share just like you did that you're actually doing the things that you're teaching or preaching, and you're very much feeling it. And as you were just describing it, your energy levels, something we talked about on today's show, is your energy levels are just bursting, right? And I love it. So you're absolutely there. You're on your way. You're doing the right thing. Keep doing what you're doing. So many people are benefiting from you and your brilliance. So I know I am first and foremost. I'm your first audience member today, and I'll go back and listen to this again later. And I usually let a couple months pass, and I go back to an episode, and I kind of reconnect into it, and I feel it and experience it all naturally again. So I know I'll be doing that and connecting back to you on this episode. But I'd love to stay connected to you as a friend and just as someone who we can really root for each other and continue to see our success and our growth. And you're someone who's in the Mic'd Up family. So just totally honored and grateful to have you here. With the last couple minutes, is there anything else that you wanted to get out on the show today and talk to our audience, kind of do a little one-on-one with them?
Oh my goodness. Oh, yeah. I mean, I think, what comes to mind is really just like, God, this life is meant to really to be lived, and so, as you're going through your day, um, really taking the time to be as intentional as possible to really set yourself up for success. If you don't want to meditate, then at least just wake up and awaken to, one of my teachers really told me this. He's like, you can awaken more than once. First awakening is you open up your eyes. You're like, okay, I'm awake. And then the next one is like, oh, I'm awakening to myself. Who am I? Yes, I'm not great. I'm really cool. Am I? I'm not great. I'm beyond. I'm more than just the same, right? Like awakening to to who it is that I will be today. And just the intention of
Mhm.
being present. I am compassionate. I am like thinking, and really just awakening to the possibilities, the potential, to the greatness that you already are. Um, and then at the end of your day, really looking back, like, where can I have done better? Where can I have, and really taking an honest look of self reflection. And throughout the day, making sure to pause and to just take moments of time to be able to, like, okay, do I need to get my bare feet on the ground? Do I need to go look at nature for a little bit? I mean, nature is like so magical. Living on this land has been so beautiful to actually slow down enough to be able to, like, I've seen such power in ants, in the animals. And I mean, it's just really been so enriching, and it's just like,
Mhm.
slow down,
Yeah.
slow down.
I think a lot of
Breathe.
times, I know I do, I forget how much Florida has a lot of farmland and just open land like that. Everybody thinks of like Disney and beaches and a lot of greenery, but there's also a lot of farmland out there. So that's kind of where you relocated to, right? Is more of that open land
I
area.
did. Open land. We have
That's
a big
awesome.
pond where we fish, fully stocked, and we fish on it, and we
Which
run
I'll
our
have to jokingly let our audience know that we had to reschedule this interview because the first attempt, Monica was at her new home, and I couldn't, like, we couldn't even do the interview because the connection was so bad. But which is intentional. She's out in the middle of nowhere, so she's not connected because she's escaping. So we had you. Where are you right now?
it's called Fellsmere. It's Fellsmere. Yeah. And
Fellsmere.
and
Okay.
yeah, and it's
What
beautiful.
Side of Florida is
It's
that? Is that more
it's
like
the
the
East Coast. It's 20 minutes inward from Vero Beach, basically. It's near Sebastian, Florida.
Vero?
Fellsmere.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
It's
Yeah.
just awesome.
So you're like, I got to get connected to Wi-Fi so we can
Yeah.
tune in on
Exactly.
Mic'd Up. That was awesome. This was such a great interview. Thank you so much for your time. Hey, congrats to the new move. Congrats to all the big moves you're making on life. And my favorite part of this whole episode is the energy and the vibrance that you have when you talk about your family. When you talk about your husband and your family, that's special. And that everything else is great, but really at the end of the day, that's the core. And that was your answer when you said, "This is why I do it. This is why I battle the battle every day. It's for them." And I'm sure they are super proud as well. So hopefully they can tune into this and they see how happy mom is, and your husband can see how much get reminded how much he is loved and cared on, and sometimes we don't always stop to say that. So if they kind of see it third person and it's mentioned, that's always a good feeling too. So thank you. I cannot thank you enough. I know I'm grateful. And I want everybody who's tuning in to remember, be great, be grateful. I'm going to do my 5-second pitch. The hats, t-shirts, and all the Mic'd Up gear is available at mic'dupmerch.com. I made it because a lot of people were asking about it. And I said, you know what? I can sell these. 100% of it goes to charity. And I've actually connected with different organizations. Most of it is to help out, like with sex trafficking. And there's a couple women's organizations I'm tied into. Hope Rises, which is just igniting hope throughout the world, is another one. But I don't make any money on the gear. It's just for me, it feels good knowing that someone else is bringing that energy. So if it says, be bold, be kind, and you're wearing that shirt and it's influencing someone, that's my payment right there. Just knowing that someone's smiling, And then also the financial piece goes to a great charity. So mikedupmerch.com. All of our episodes are available, and there's going to be something right after this where people can tune in and get our website and all the show notes. But Monica, this was fantastic. You over-delivered, and I'm not surprised. I knew you're going to bring your A game today. Thank you so much. I'd like to give a huge shout out to everyone for tuning in, especially those who listen all the way to the end to hear this message. Seriously, I appreciate you, and my guests do as well. Giving a quick reminder to subscribe to this show. It's completely free and will allow you to receive notifications when new episodes are released. If you'd like to provide a tip as a gift, you can do so via patreon.com/micedup. It's spelled MIKED up. Patreon.com/micedup. You can give as little as $1 per month or as much as you'd like. Every dollar is greatly appreciated and completely unexpected. Appreciate your reviews and your messages coming in on social as well. Keep them coming. Your feedback is valuable and absolutely means the world to me. You can check out more episodes and content at mikeduppodcast.com. We're powered by Social Chameleon. You can also follow me on Instagram. That's where I'm the most active, and it's at Mike DiCioccio, MIKEDICIOCCIO. Thank you so much for your continued support. You guys know what to do. Be great and be grateful.